You're listening to the Paul Young Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Paul Young Podcast. I'm glad you're with us. We continue our Emails from Joani series with Emails from Joani Part 5. Last time, if you were part of that conversation, we ended up with an email. Joani was feeling like she had been told a verse from Scripture that felt like a direct accusation. Now, here is something to keep in mind. Jesus is never the accuser. If you hear a voice of accusation, let me tell you right now, it is not Jesus. And it doesn't matter if it comes out of the mouth of someone else or if it comes out of a scripture verse. That scripture is about the use of something with the intention to harm. And the fruit of that is going to be greater violence. There is life and death in the power of the tongue. And you'll eat the fruit of whichever you will participate in. You participate in the death stuff, that's the fruit you will eat. She just had a very hard night with her husband, who is an alcoholic and was in a great deal of turmoil, and drops me this note. My response: Hey, Joani, first, this is not your fault. You don't have the bottle in your hand, you don't take the drinks, and Jesus does not make accusations. So that is obviously a false persona. Jesus doesn't spank in order to teach you a lesson. There's a poem by David Tenson that is aimed at adult children of alcoholics, and there are some truths that may apply. The poem goes like this. It's a 4-letter word, and it's not kind or love or hope. The word that best describes growing up with an alcoholic parent is shit. And it lingers for years, stalking you into adulthood, smearing itself on the edge of broken promises, making reality hard to grasp, silencing speech, scapegoating smellers. It's shit. The unspoken rules, the sense you get that you're second to a substance because they'd rather booze up than buy you shoes or a basic meal. By the way, best go to bed. They're still at the bottle shop. It's shit. And all the ways you blame yourself, performing through perfection for attention, then swinging to rebellion, anything to be seen and loved and held more than a bottle. For the beloved you are and your heart is bleeding, it's shit. And I'm sorry, I'd love to tell you it doesn't matter, but it does, because you do, and always have. And that deep anger and sadness that seeps from your scars are normal. And they exist because you know deep in your love-seated soul that you did nothing to deserve the neglect or the harm or the shame from that parent, who may have loved you but failed terribly at loving themselves or parenting themselves with any maturity. It's shit. And I'm sorry, and I'm praying that you keep walking toward the light of healing and wholeness as slowly as you need, with guides at your side. I asked, are you seeing a therapist? Maybe it's time. I know you love him, that is obvious. Boundaries are the space between loving the other and loving yourself. Hugs. Joani writes back, thank you for your thoughts in the poem. I am seeing a therapist on and off. First, I want to apologize. I reached out in a moment of desperation, something I haven't done for a long time, and probably made things worse than they are. I wish I hadn't put that on you, and just to be clear, Sam wouldn't be classified as the kind of alcoholic described in the poem. It's only periodic, and not nearly so consuming. It's also been almost 5 years since things were really bad, and so I guess a relapse made me panic and threw me into a loop. My question was sincere, though, and not just to garner sympathy. I would love to get to a place where I can remember Jesus is with me when the shadows tell me I'm all alone and God probably doesn't exist. I wondered if there was a simple trick to it or something like trust being in the present. The present doesn't seem easy in that kind of moment. Maybe it's just something that slowly seeps in over time as you get older. I'm trying to figure out how not to be a fixer of Sam or to control or save Sam, while at the same time not be unsafe or let my kids be unprotected during those times. In the past, I did whatever needed doing not to get him upset and to keep the peace in my home, and found that it started taking over my whole life with any kind of conflict with anyone. Fawning and anxiety and a need to placate. I have learned some helpful things through therapy since that time, even if I forget them sometimes. Anyway, Paul, as always, you are gentle and kind-hearted. Thank you for how you respond. I know in my head that it's not my fault, but my heart doesn't quite believe it in those moments, as the worst drinking bouts are always triggered by a disagreement between Sam and I, where I voiced my displeasure over something that ends up hurting him. And I understand what you're saying about love. I hope things are going well for you. I've seen posts about the small gatherings you're doing in cities. Maybe one day I'll get to host you in a small gathering at the family ranch, which is quite beautiful and right on a river. It sounds like an amazing time to spend talking to and about Jesus together. There's a lot packed into this little email from Joani. And her question was like, in that moment of emotional upheaval, how do you hear? Well, I'd like to say that there's a trick to it, but there's not. At least I haven't found one. Maybe somebody out there knows. It's probably written a book about it. But when I'm in the middle of those things, it takes me some time to decompress and to allow myself to actually think it through. And that's hard when the emotions are ramped up. Emotions are largely connected to our histories, and they don't tell us the truth all the time. In fact, often they don't tell us the truth. The heart tells us the truth, but the heart will tell you what you believe. That is, you believe that you're in danger. You believe that this person is bad. You believe because that's what your emotions are telling you. When you're dealing with the voices of self-protection and self-promotion, you're dealing with deep down inner beliefs. And that comes from our experience. It comes from our trauma. It comes from our experience, both bad and good. Those things elevate our capacity to be in a conversation. Bottom line, our emotions tend to tell us more about our histories than about the reality of the situation we find ourselves. And that's why we will react in a given situation that just later we think about it's like, why in the world was that my response? You'll have reactions about things that you don't even understand why. And it's linked to fears and hurts and losses and abandonment issues and all kinds of things that come from the distant path. As we come to healing, as we grow in our wholeness, towards wholeness, these situations lessen their power. That is, we're able to walk ourselves through and out of them quickly. We begin to recognize the accusation voices and nullify them sooner. And that is evidence that there is movement going on in our hearts, that people can't trigger us the way that they used to. And we will become surprised. You will look at a situation and go, well, boy, that was different. How did I do that? Or how come I was able to do that this time? And part of it is learning how to be a truth teller, talking about these things, confessing these things, being a truth teller. And it's not about feeling bad. Sometimes we grieve about the choices that we've made and the things that we've said. Yeah, and that's totally legitimate. But it's not shame-based sorrow. Grief is an act of love toward ourselves and towards others, and shame never is. Shame is never an act of love. It is always a disassembling of the self. It is always a dismembering. When the voices of accusation begin to dismember you, begin to recognize that is not the truth. That is not what Jesus is saying to me. And my whole history and background may be saying, this is the truth, this is the truth. You know, there probably isn't even a God, or else you would be able to do better than you're at. And you're so not spiritual, or any of those accusations. Those accusations need not to be avoided, but faced. And the only way to process and move forward in our wholeness is through, not around. You're not going to find a way around these things. And so talking and communication and those things. I think I've said this before, but 12-steppers have taught large swaths of the community of faith how to have an actual conversation. A conversation of openness, dialogue, transparency, and confession. I just laugh when I think about the fact that many of those groups meet in the basements of churches. I think that is so amazingly wonderful that they would decide that that was the best place to meet. Because if anybody needs to know and learn how to have a real small group where the truth is told, it's we religious people. So very grateful. And again, we get to companion each other. We are not the answer people. That's one of the things about mentoring, that if you really understand what it is, it's not about being the person who answers all the questions. It is not about taking a superior place. Mentors are those who have suffered. They are the artists of the soul, and they are there to be with you. And you are not there to be with them in that sense, because they have a capacity to be with you that most of us don't have a capacity to return. Not until we gain strength and a place of certainty and solidity in our inner worlds. So that's Emails from Joani, Part 5. Blessings.